You're useless. All your efforts are in vain. The world is not changed by your existence. That's why today we're going to talk about ayashimon. But first, stick with me. We live in a time when if you add a dark element to anything, it will become popular and become a worldwide fever. If you take workers and add a darker element, you'll create a whole jutsu. If you mix the dark element with school, you create Nader and Doki Doki. And if you mix dark with isekai, you get a tea of very dubious Oregon. But what if you mix something dark with an ordinary shonen? Well, then you create more reason for me to go to the psycho ayashimon. You create a ayashimon. You know, when I was a kid, on the way to school, I always expected something different to happen. Anything to break the routine. But the most that happened was a truck driver who was rooting against my progress, getting mad at me just because I wanted to go to the isekai. I felt like Kira. Only, instead of waiting for a notebook to fall from the sky, I waited for a magic portal to open in front of me. I was going to go through it and live the dreamed of isekai, where everything would be beautiful. I would be the protagonist, where I would probably have a stolen skill, get everything I wanted, and, above all, an array. I was a kid, okay? Give me a discount. And well, you who are watching this have probably already thought that something like this was going to happen, that you'd finally take charge of your life and show the villain that he's dealing with a legendary knight. As much as you hope this monotony will magically end, it never really does. You're still in the doldrums when it comes to success. And thanks to that, we come to today's video. Yuki Kako, creator of Jigokuraku, an anime that attracted a lot of attention for its story and also for the married eater smeared in strange liquid, which I'm sure almost everyone who saw the anime saw because of her. You can be honest with me, man. I'm not gonna judge you. Look at me. I'm the last person who can judge someone. But what we want here isn't about this anime or its manga. Well, you can't get them all right. And after Jigokuraku, the author made another manga, which was cancelled in the 3rd volume for unexplained reason. And it's about today. This is Maruo Kaido, a boy who just wants to escape his routine, and luckily an opportunity presents itself in the form of a cute anime girl. Maruo has superhuman strength, and the manga shows this very well, as the manga begins by not only showing him defeating all kinds of fighters, but also breaking everything in his path without meaning to, all because he wanted to reach the pinnacle of the average Brazilian. After being rejected several times from various jobs, he decided to contemplate the presidency, but bullies got in his way, telling him he needed a job. Him saying that he needed to go to work and that he should get out of the way. He wanted to know where the bully worked and accidentally broke his shoulder, but out of nowhere he starts to hear footsteps. A little girl being chased runs up behind him, but for the moment everything is still routine, and he still easily beats the Yakuzas who were chasing the girl. While he's running away with the girl, they start talking. Her name is Urara, and she wants Maruo to work for her, but she's not offering him a normal job as a market clerk. She wants to form a Yakuza family with him, but of course Maruo doesn't want that. Ever since he was a child, Maruo always wanted to be the protagonist of a manga. Till at the age of 7, he managed to break his first rock. He acquired strength. He acquired what makes him different from the others. But for a normal person nowadays, strength is unnecessary. Life is not a manga. It never was, and his talent is useless. But she says something that will mark the story completely. She appears confused and says, "Wait, are you human?" But there's no time for comic timing. The Yakuza from before are back, and they want the girl. But for some reason, they don't refer to themselves as human, because they're not human. They're monsters. They're ayashimon. Seeing Maruo's shock at the situation, Urara begins to draw attention to herself. After all, she is the target. Maruo was just dragged into it out of the blue, but contrary to what she thinks, Maruo isn't scared. He shouts in shock so as not to get his hopes up, and gets hit hard. Yeah, he's happy. His dream has finally come true. Ever since he was a child, he had always wanted to defeat a villain, and he succeeded, but he didn't feel any better. All the training seemed to have been in vain. All those fights, without emotion, without fear of defeat, it all ends here. Even though he's completely injured, he's laughing. His opportunity has finally come. He can finally be the protagonist of his life. All this while he's lifting a car, getting beaten up. His smile never leaves his face. Car, and in the midst of references, beatings, his smile never leaves his face. After being completely rejected several times, he has finally found his opportunity to become what he always wanted. Or as he says, "I know now that this is my only way to live." Unfortunately, they don't have Sakazuki now, so she tastes his blood and he tastes hers, and from today onwards, in terms of accusations, she becomes his older sister. Wait, so he always gets hurt a lot. He had a shitty father who he beat up. He has a distorted sense of morality. He also has a woman who bosses him around. Reading this manga, I felt like I was reading my first shonen again, only with a little extra spice, you know? Just like many other anime and manga, it focuses on identification, but unlike the isekais, where the nerdo out of nowhere turns into a demon king, here the identification is more internal. You see someone who is just like you, who, even though he has his individuality, is still stuck in the ordinary, still stuck in the past, and at the same time you're happy that he gets a chance to fight for his dream. Many people will wait for a job, a promotion, college, or even a YouTube channel, looking to change their outlook on life. And what hits so hard in this is knowing that you can have the chance to change your destiny, even if you're a nobody. And something that really exemplifies what I mean is Black Clover. After facing countless villains, always surpassing himself, Asta finally finds a barrier that he can't pass by just trying hard. Even though he's been fighting his destiny all this time, he's no match for his new enemy and is easily defeated. And what left for him? It was already a miracle to get this far, using effort alone. And now, he's more lost than ever. But there's still a glimmer of hope for him. There's a way for him to become stronger, to compensate with the training and talent that he lacks. And in the face of this little spark of hope, he rejoices, just knowing that he still has the chance to change what he is. Just as Asta and Maru won that chance, everyone else is waiting patiently. It may take a week, a month, a year, a decade, but you'll keep trying while you wait for the turning point. And no, I'm not telling you to play the lottery. During his story, Maru defeats many enemies, makes many friends, earns respect, and as the protagonist, he also meets his villain, Topo Akari. He's the first real wall that Maru can't get past. He's sadistic, despicable, and he proves to us that good doesn't always win, that the turning point isn't always a sure thing, an overwhelming power that severely injures Maru and refuses to stop fighting. A shonen protagonist doesn't give up, so he won't either, here showing an ideal that can even be somewhat self-destructive. After this defeat, he trains, goes through more obstacles, all to meet his greatest enemy again, or at least a copy of him, a monster that can transform, cunning enough to become his enemy's greatest fear. The fight was going well. Maru was stronger now. He's not the same as before, but you can't always be the protagonist of your own story. As I've already said here, it's never that easy. It's never that simple. Being your enemy has lost control and used an attack that looks like a black ink, which devastates the Maru, thanks to which he has hallucinations where he is drawing the manga, where he is making his own story. He is told that his ideal is self-destructive, that if he carries on like this, he'll end up dying. But I think that's exactly what having a dream is. I'm not just saying for myself that I'd break as many bones as necessary to achieve my goal. A dream doesn't have to be a dream. To achieve my goal, a dream isn't a dream if you wouldn't give your life for it. That's why everyone takes such risks. But now we come back to Maru O'Real. His enemy was a very strong wall again. Only this time, with the power of friendship, they achieve their goals and live happily ever after. Or at least it was supposed to be. Now let's tell the real story. Ayashimon is a work that was very famous outside Japan. But inside Japan, the manga didn't have a good reception. Even more so within Shonen Jump. For them, it wasn't worth giving a continuation to this work. Even more so with the Jujutsu, Kimetsu, Chainsaw Man, which deal with similar themes. The work ended up being overlooked in Japan, even though it had its own way of telling things, proving that no matter how much you win that opportunity, that chance to change your life, it can all end overnight. The book has an open ending where Maruo and Doppo have their rematch, but unfortunately we're not going to see that. When I read that, I felt really bad. This was a really good work. I'm not even talking about revolutionizing the industry or anything like that. I'm talking about liking it, really liking it, letting go of comparisons and just enjoying a good 2D doll fight, just like I like Ayashimon. Even though it has been Aurora is a well of charisma, and so is Maruo. They are characters who complement each other very well, and when you've finished reading it, you'll be in the existential crisis that I was, thinking, man, I should have stayed with the licky mine. As hard as it may be, doing everything you can to change is important. A happy ending isn't always possible, but it's much better to be known as someone who tried until the end than to be known as someone who didn't even bother. It's going to be hard, but get on with life, because as long as Maruo has Aurora, everything will be fine. Will they find out that I only recorded this so as not to suffer alone?